Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. In this video we will be talking about prefixes and converting units. But before we start with that, we must refresh our information about how to use powers. In other words, when there's a lot of zeros, we can use powers to make things easier to deal with. So let's try this out. For example, if I have the number 100, it can be written like this. 100 is equal to 10 to the power 2. I can get rid of the zeros and use a certain symbol. How is this done? We can do this simply by counting the zeros. Say 100 has how many zeros? 100 has 2 zeros. And then I will put a small number over the number 10. And this is called the power. So I can just replace it with 10 to the power 2. But it's very important to keep in mind that this 0 does not mean that I have 3 zeros now. No, just imagine that 10 is just like a base or a symbol or whatever. And then just put the zeros or the number of zeros up and say it's 10 to the power 2. And this can be read as 10 to the power 2. So let's try it on a quick example. Write the following in terms of power. So let's start with the first example here. It says 1 million or 1 with 6 zeros. I can simply say that it's equal to 10 to the power 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because I have 6 zeros, so it's 10 to the power 6. What about this one here? It's pretty obvious. It's 10 to the power 3 because I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. And what about this one? It's 10 to the power 1, 2, 3, 4. So here it's 10 to the power 4. Now this has a small trick in it. I can say this is equal to 1 over 10 to the power 3, okay? But I can also write it in another way. Say I want to lift this 10 to the power 3 to be up here instead of being in the denominator. What do? Well, I can do that by adding a simple sign. I can say this is also equal to 10 to the power negative 3. 1 over 10 to the power 3, I can say it's simply equal to 10 to the power negative 3. So adding a negative sign means that this is actually in the denominator, not in the numerator. So for example, if I have 10 to the power negative 4, it's equal to 1 over 10 to the power 4, which is equal to 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So we are just playing with the shape or the format of the powers. Some of you may ask, why do we make things difficult? Why don't we just use zeros? Sometimes we will be dealing with a lot of zeros, 10, 12, even 19 zeros in some examples. So it's going to be difficult to write all these zeros, so we will be using this format. Now we can start with our topic here, which is called prefixes. So we can make numbers larger or smaller by using an extra symbol, which is called a prefix. What does this do? Let's try it out. Now say the basic unit of length is meters. So when we add a prefix called kilo next to the unit meter, it becomes 1,000 times larger. Okay, this is kind of confusing. What is kilo? What did it come from? And how did it make it 1,000 times larger? We will make things more clear just in a minute. Now, the abbreviation K can be used for the word kilos. So instead of writing the word kilo, I can just use the letter K. Now, how does this work? This is our basic unit. We learned this before, that we have something called the basic units, and meter is the unit of length. Now, I can add a K just next to this meter, and this will change the whole meaning. If I say that I have 1 kilometer, this means that it's equal to 1,000 meters. If I want to make numbers larger or smaller, I can use these prefixes, and kilo is just one of them. We have many prefixes we will be looking at right now. So, one more time, adding a prefix can change the number and make it smaller or larger just by simply using this prefix. So this is the basic unit, and this is called the prefix, and this is what it means. Now, what are the prefixes that are normally used in our line of work? We have many prefixes, and we will be using them commonly. Now, this is our basic unit. So, for example, it's meter, okay? I can use prefixes to make it smaller or bigger. So if I use a prefix called deca, it's like I'm multiplying by 10. If I use a prefix called hecto, it's like I'm multiplying by 100. If I use a prefix called giga, it's like I'm multiplying by 1,000 million. So each one of these prefixes has a certain value, and it's written in powers also. Say So what we mentioned earlier, it's going to be difficult to write 9 zeros every time, so I can use 10 to the power 9. Now, if I want to make this basic unit smaller, I will be using other types of prefixes. For example, deci, centi, milli, micro, and nano. All these are prefixes. Now, these prefixes, as we mentioned earlier, have abbreviations, and we must memorize them. It's not like we need to exactly memorize them, but we will be using them a lot, so they will just come commonly to your head. But you need to practice a lot on how to use these prefixes. Now, converting between prefixes is a very important skill to learn. So how are we going to do that? For example, if you were asked to convert 30,000 meters into kilometers, what should we do? Now, we broke this down into simple steps. So step 1, ask yourself, am I converting from a small to a big prefix or the opposite? So is meter bigger than kilometer or is it smaller? So this is the first question. We know that meter is smaller than kilometer, going back to the table we just saw. Now, the second step is that I want to forget about the sign of the power. So we know that, for example, centimeter is 10 to the power negative 2. I will use 10 to the power 2. I will forget about the negative sign just for 1 second, okay? Now, step 3 says if the answer to step 1 is I'm transforming from big to small, we will multiply by the prefix value. But if I'm transforming from small to big, we will divide by the prefix value. Now, everything will become a lot more clear when we solve these problems. So let's start with a very simple problem. Convert the following: 0.01 kilometers into meters. Now I put the table here so it can help us. Now I'm transforming from kilometer to meter. So I'm transforming from kilo, which is bigger than meter. So I'm transforming from big to small. So right here, big to small. Okay, so I won't forget. It's 0.01. Since I'm transforming from big to small, I will multiply just as we agreed. Now, I'm going to see what am I going to multiply with. It's 10 to the power 3. Is there a negative sign? No, so there's nothing to change here. So it's multiplied by 10 to the power 3, which is equal to 10 meters. Okay, so big to small, we multiply. Now, the second part says 5,000 centimeters into meters. So I'm standing right here, centimeters, and I want to go to the basic unit, which is meters. So I'm going from small to big. So I'm going to write here small to big. Now, what I'm going to do is like this. It's going to be 5,000. And since I'm going from small to big, I will divide by what number? Now, go to the centi. It's 10 to the power negative 2. As I said, while transforming, I will forget about this negative sign. So I'm going to say it's 10 to the power 2. So it's simply 5,000 divided by 10 to the power 2, which is equal to 5,000 divided by 100. I can also write it this way. It's 5,000 divided by 100. So it's simply equal to 50 meters. Next problem, it says to transform from meters into micrometers. So I'm transforming from big to small. It's quite obvious right now. Since I'm transforming from big to small, I'm going to say 3.11 multiplied by 10 to the power. From big to small, what is the unit? I'm transforming from meters into micrometers, and it has 10 to the power negative 6. As I said, while transforming, forget about the negative sign. So it's 10 to the power 6 without the negative sign. Okay? Can we keep it like that? Yes, it's considered as a correct answer. You can also just transform it to 311, then you can add 4 zeros next to it. But the idea of using powers is getting rid of zeros as much as we can. So we can just keep it like this. 560 meters into nanometers. So from the basic unit, which is meters, and we're going to nano, it's clear that we're going from big to small. So since we're going from big to small, we will multiply. So it's 560 multiplied by 10 to the power. What is the prefix? What is the power of nano? It's 10 to the power negative 9, but we're going to multiply by 10 to the power 9 because we said while converting, we will forget about the negative signs. Finally, 1,500 seconds into milliseconds. Okay, so I'm going from 1,500 seconds into milliseconds. As you can see, I'm going from, again, big to small. So it's 1,500 multiplied by 10 to the power. Well, let's see if milli, it has 10 to the power negative 3. We're going to forget about the negative sign. It's going to be 10 to the power 3. We can also write it one more time. We can say it's 15 multiplied by 10 to the power 5. We just moved these two zeros into here by adding or by changing the 3 into 5. So we just converted some units. It's going to be a little difficult at the beginning, but once you get the hang of it, everything will be under control. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.